I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're exploring the transformative insights of Lyle Simpson's amazing book. It's called Fully Human, Fully Alive. This compelling guide aims to help individuals break free from the limitations of Maslow's social level of living and achieve their highest potential. Join us right now as we uncover the paths to overcoming personal barriers and becoming truly alive. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Good River Print and Media for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Lyle, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
I'm pleased to be here. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you.
Well, I appreciate you spending the time to talk to us. This is an amazing book. Let's start with the basics first. I talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs earlier. What is that? Explain it to the folks at home. It's basically a roof over your head, food, your basic needs, but tell us a little bit more about it.
Okay. It's a subject I've been studying now for 60 years. My undergraduate work was in psychology and philosophy, and I've been working very hard on this ever since. But psychology started with Sigmund Freud, who took people who had very abnormal behavior and through psychotherapy tried to bring them back into mainstream society so they'd act more normal. And so it started really as a negative science. And then the behaviorists came along. Everybody's heard of Pavlov's dog that you ring a
Ring
bell,
that bell.
it salivates, right? So it proves that behavior can be conditioned. And so behaviorists really got into the realm of studying what causes needs to happen, what causes behavior. Their conclusion was it was need deprivation causes you to move forward. And the net result of that is that they were going off in a very intense direction. Maslow comes along having studied that subject, and he had two very nice professors that were beautiful people, but he couldn't figure out what the need deprivation was that caused them to be such nice people. So all of a sudden he concluded, hey, we've got all this backwards. These are the normal people. And to the extent you have need deprivation, you become abnormal, clear down to the people that Freud was dealing with. And so he started studying needs. And what he found, instead of it being a linear development, he knew that there were different drive strengths depending on what your need is. But what he really discovered that changes really how we look at life. He discovered that needs can be categorized in one of 6 different levels, and that the need drive strength of the lower level is twice that of the level above it. That's very significant, and that's what's really making what the purpose of this book all about. What he discovered is you got basic needs: food, water, sex, shelter, warmth. Missing any of those, your behavior will go to that. You got to go to the bathroom. Nothing else is really important at that time. Once your basic needs are satisfied, then in essence, what you do is you feather your nest on the security level to assure that those needs are satisfied the next go around. Once you feel secure, then you can bring other people within your defense mechanism and share life with them. And he calls that the social level. Now, what makes this significant for the subject we're talking about today, Maslow discovered that 70% of people living in America today can't get above the social level. That's significant because there's 3 levels above that. For those people that are able to get above that, you get into the self-awareness or the ego level where you fulfill yourself as an individual. Once you're satisfied there, about 6% get to the level of actualization where all of their needs are totally satisfied. The next important part of this element is that our selfishness declines at that same rate. So somewhere in the middle of actualization, you no longer have any selfish motivation. Once you get there, 1% of society today can get to the point where they're fully alive, where they can dedicate their life for the benefit of others without any selfish reason for doing it. It's just the right thing to do. So they get a fulfilled existence that adds tremendous quality to their lives.
Mm.
Now, there's some good reasons why all of that happens. Once you have a belief, you can develop in what's called a scotoma, which is a mental block that keeps you from seeing any other belief. And so you can't hit your scotoma head on. Your body won't let you do that because it's hiding from you as well as everything else in order to protect you. And so if you've got a real firm belief, you got to recognize there's a whole bunch of information that could benefit you that you'll never see. And so one purpose of this book is to give you enough information so you can build bridges over these barriers so you can rise above them, so they're not blocking you from continuing your growth. And that's a pretty complex issue to discuss, in a few minutes that we've got to do it.
Yeah.
But the book gets you enough information so that you can see where you can feel your own barrier at some point. And if you realize you've got that barrier, and we all have some, you can build that bridge, and that'll let you grow beyond it. So that's what my book is there to help you do.
What are some of these barriers that keep us from getting to the higher levels?
Well, the quality of your life goes up dramatically with each level. You can appreciate the fact that there are a lot of people in the world who are still living on the basic level because they're hungry.
Right.
They can't see anything beyond that. Well, you can imagine what a poor life they really have. We're fortunate in America that doesn't include anybody here.
Mm.
Everybody, including the homeless, are fed. Once you're satisfied on that level and you can move to the security level so you know you're going to be satisfied the next level, your quality of life goes up. And once you're there, then you can have a relationship with someone else that's meaningful. The concept we have of love are people you bring within your defense mechanism to share life with. That adds a lot of value to your life. But the quality of your life doesn't stop there unless you can't see beyond it. And my purpose of my book is to help you see beyond that so you can reach to the next level. Once you get to the level where you're self-aware and you fully can appreciate who you are as an individual, the quality of your life is dramatically improved. Once you get to that point, so you can self-actualize where all of your needs are totally satisfied, you can get to a point that's called a peak experience. What a peak experience is sort of you're resonating with the world around you. It's like a speedboat that's plowing through the water that all of a sudden gets up on a plane. It can go much faster, much quicker, with a lot less energy. And so it can accomplish a heck of a lot more once you get up on that plane. And so the actualized level helps you do that. And for those people that are there and able to get there, they're a fulfilled individual. So now all of a sudden they can make their life even more meaningful because they can go out and make the world a better place because we've been here. If there is no such thing as a life after death, and I discuss that somewhat in the book, because it's important that you look at that subject. It's one of the beliefs that we have. Now, how does it affect you? Well, that's just one example, but if you believe it, if you look at it from that point of view, there may not be such a thing as a life after death. And therefore, your immortality comes from the fact you leave this world a better place because you've been here. And how you do that is complex, but it's very easy once you get to the point where you pass actualization. And then you're capable of giving your life not only so that the world's a better place, but you feel far more fulfilled as an individual. So it adds tremendous quality to your own life. Anyway,
No,
That's
it's
what.
fascinating. It's a fascinating conversation, a fascinating topic. Let me play um, American here and ask you, is a lot of it tied to money? Like once you have enough money, you'll have enough food, you'll have proper shelter, you have access to a good vacation and a good education, rather, access to a lot of things in life that make overcoming the obstacles easier. So is a lot of it tied to economics? Does money buy happiness? Let me ask you that way.
The sense of success comes from the growth that you're on the path, as opposed to what happens when you finally get there. In my book, I discuss one example, a cat and a mouse. If that cat is totally filled, it might play with that mouse,
Mm,
but that doesn't make the cat happy. The mouse that's still hungry that catches the mouse, now all of a sudden that mouse is a lot happier. And so the growth through life is a process of constantly expanding your goals to reach to higher levels. I've given a third of my professional life as an attorney free to society one way or another.
mm,
And it's made a huge difference in my life because I can see a lot of things are happening today that wouldn't have happened had I not been there to help create that opportunity. That makes me feel better about me,
mm,
not because of ego. It makes me feel better about me because then I know I'm doing something worthwhile to help other people.
mm.
When I first started practicing law 60 years ago, I did what all lawyers did. I tried cases and I love the chess game in the courtroom. But all of a sudden I woke up and I felt, I feel guilty making someone else lose. Now,
Mm,
who the heck's going to want to hire a lawyer? It's going to feel guilty winning for them.
yeah,
So what am I going to do now? Well, I
yeah.
decided I only want to help people be successful in whatever they want to do. And so it changed my whole life. My problem was, okay, there's no examples at that point in time of people doing that. So how do I get there? I read a book by a woman by the name of Catherine Ponder, who said, if you want to make a change in your life, you got to have a fixed goal. And then you got to create a vacuum so that you'll move toward that goal. Of course, that's behavioral psychology. And so lawyers get nervous back then anyway, because you couldn't advertise that you didn't have 2 months worth of work on your desk. You worried about it. So I took half of my work down the hall and gave it to another lawyer. And the day didn't pass, but the first opportunity to create a business came about. Well, now I've created over 1,000 different entities in my history, my life, and 5 of them are now world leaders in what they do. When you create a business, there's a statistic out there that says 80% of all new businesses fail in the first 3 years. So I started studying what causes that to happen. And the reason why you have a board of directors in a larger organization, I had a client tell me one time, we're all born with 10 columns and 100 marbles. They just distribute different for different people.
Mm,
So if you've got a column with a lot of marbles in it, you got to recognize some of your columns are missing some.
mm,
And so the reason why you have a board of directors is so that the weakness of you as an individual doesn't become the institutional weakness. Well, most smaller businesses can't afford an outside board of directors. So I filled that role for them. And so I lose maybe 16 or 17% because it really was a dumb idea or you don't listen. But there's a big spread between that and the 80% we're talking about. So we think we do add value for those companies. And I can give you some examples of who they are and what they're doing and tell you why they're successful. But those are opportunities where you can make a difference in the world.
yeah.
Uh, I became, I've been active in the American Human Association now for 50 years. my successor as national president of the organization is a guy named Isaac Asimov, who published 480 books. And look at the difference that he's made. He's been dead now for 40 years, but Asimov's 2-volume guide to the Bible that takes every chapter of the New and Old Testament and puts it in a historic setting so you know why it was written. Now, it took a brilliant mind to do that, or Asimov's Guide to Science, or Asimov's Guide to Physics. When I asked him to be my successor as president of the national organization, he says, well, I can understand why you're asking, and I'd be happy to do that, except for one thing, and that's that you meet all over the United States. And if I can't go by car or train, I won't leave my home on Central Park. And so I can't do it. And I said, I'll be chairman of your board for a year, and I'll see that my successor fill that role for you. I've got a project here for you that I really need your help with. And so he agreed to do it. And just think of the difference that he's made in the lives of people.
Yeah.
He told me he wouldn't fly in an airplane, even though he's a science fiction author of the world at that point in time. I thought, well, you got a real problem there. But anyway, my goal in this book is to help people make the very most that they possibly can out of their own lives. And I think I can say that I've been somewhat of an example. And I don't mean that out of vanity. I mean it because I've been living what the book is talking all about.
Yeah, you're living a self-actualized life, which is wonderful. What advice would you give to someone who feels stuck right now and unable to see beyond their current limitations?
Say that again.
What advice would you give someone who feels stuck and unable to see beyond their current limitations?
Well, we all have limitations, if I understood your question correctly. And maybe I don't understand it correctly.
People feel like they don't have any control in their life, that they're stuck in place, that they're a victim of circumstance. How
Well,
can somebody apply the principles that you write about to make their own lives better for somebody who feels trapped right now?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why that happens. And a lot of it psychological. And it's how you're viewing whatever your circumstances are. The book addresses 3 different audiences. The first problem is somebody that's got that problem, it would benefit them to seek outside assistance. And there's all kinds of counselors out there, so they can identify their problem, because their scotoma, their barrier, they can't see it. They're simply backing away and acting negatively toward it. So you first have to understand what it is so that you can build the bridge around it. Otherwise, it's going to paralyze you and it's going to keep you there. And B.F. Skinner, who was the head of the behavior psychologists, and Abraham Maslow, who created humanistic psychology, they were both members of the American Human Association. A friend of mine sat on a bar stool between the two of them where they were arguing over their philosophy of humanism. And I've kicked myself now for 30 years that before he died, I didn't have him write an essay on what that argument was about, because that'd be a classic among psychologists.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I didn't get that done. But the point is, most people don't know themselves and need help to get there. And as I say, once you have a belief, it can be a negative belief about yourself, that's a tremendous barrier. And and of course, if you're hungry, like many people, 9 billion people in the world today, a lot of them are hungry.
Mhm.
And how you adjust to that, you first got to be fed.
Mhm.
Have a system that'll show you how you're going to be fed tomorrow so that you get to the security level. Fortunately, in America, most people are on the social level, but it's the 70% that are stuck there that I'm trying to deal with.
Mm.
If I were speaking to somebody in China, I'd be speaking a different message. Uh, or the Middle East, or the people that are literally starving.
Yeah.
But in America, speaking to them, I can start on the social level and help them grow beyond that point.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I believe beliefs are a complete barrier to our lives if we let them be. Beliefs can also be the gates that open up our lives. If we believe we can do something, we can achieve it, you actually can do it. If you believe you're lost, if you believe it's hopeless, it is hopeless, you are lost. So you're right. Those people do need to seek professional help. Listening again, I'm going to go back to money one more time. Do you feel like a universal basic income in this country would be helpful, or is it not needed because we have enough riches and people are doing okay?
I didn't quite get the
I was
question.
saying, do you think a universal basic income, giving people a certain amount of money to make sure their basic needs are met, food, clothing, shelter, health insurance, if those needs are met, do you think it'll help society advance?
Well, it's a minimum requirement. I just sent a letter to a friend of mine who's the Secretary of Agriculture today, telling him that he's also got to do one more thing. He was bragging about the fact that he's issued more food stamps than anybody in history. I said, okay, I can understand the benefit of that, but now how do you help people get off of the food stamps by giving them a sense of responsibility for themselves?
Right.
You only do that by giving them opportunity to grow and gaining a feeling of success because they've reached the next level.
Right.
There's a lot of ways that our government and our culture can give people an opportunity to do something beyond themselves that helps them reach for the next level. And once they start down that path, that it's the moving toward the goal that gives them a sense of success. Once that happens, you can help them eventually grow to the point where they're off of food stamps. They
Mhm.
don't need the government support anymore. Now look what you've done to help those people.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I gave him a path to look at. I also sent him a copy of my book.
Mhm.
But I've known him for a long time. He was a governor here in Iowa, and we lived in the same apartment together, and
Yeah.
and we became pretty good friends. Uh, but how he's going to take my advice to him,
No,
find
but
out.
you're very, very right. In some ways, there either has to be a reward to get off of food stamps, or there, in some ways, need deprivation pushes us ahead,
Well,
right?
there are some people that'll never get beyond it because they're cemented in their low self-esteem.
Right.
But hopefully their children will see the benefit if they're shown other paths to follow so that they don't follow their parents, because there's some of them that are fourth and fifth generations people that are socially dependent on food stamps. And it's really kind of sad that society's not doing anything to help those people have a better life. And so I was trying to do that, and we'll see what
As the
we'll say.
Bible says, teach a man to fish, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime, right?
That's right. Well, that's the whole objective of my book.
Yeah.
And it's any way you look at it, helping people have a better life because they've been here adds a lot of value to your own life.
Yeah.
Uh, my my law firm requires that I keep a resume because when they're doing their conflict checks before they get involved in lawsuit, only to find that I've been on the board of whatever those organizations are, they want to, they don't want to have that problem.
Mm.
But my resume is now 19 pages.
Mm.
Things that I've done. I've been in the military for 30 years. I was an Army officer for 13 and transferred to the Navy as a lawyer and wound up an appellate judge in the Navy after 17 years.
Mm.
And that causes you to see life from a little different perspective. It also adds, hopefully, value in our society that we've got that kind of protection, that people care that much. The American Bar Association sent 10 of us, each of us chaired the law practice management section for our state, sent us to China in 2007 because they'd only been graduating lawyers from law school for 10 years. And we didn't have any idea what that system was all about. Well, that was an eye-opening experience.
Mm.
First thing I learned is that the social glue in the Western society is religion.
Mm-hmm.
That's the substance that causes us to live safely together. Well, they don't do that in China. They don't want people meeting together like that. And so they discourage that, even though they do have religions. But if somebody who thinks they're pretty religious there is like the Christian here that goes to church on Christmas and Easter and assumes they're the Christian.
Yeah.
But over there, what causes you to protect yourself and what keeps the social glue is saving face.
Mm.
And losing face with somebody over there is like a mortal sin. I've been the legal counsel for one of our Iowa governors here since 1978, who's now the longest serving governor in the history of the United States, over 22 years, who just spent 3.5 years as the ambassador to China. And very successful in what he did. But it's kind of interesting. When he first became governor, we had a tremendous problem with agriculture. It was in very bad condition here in Iowa. And so what he did, we were creating a sister state with one of the provinces in China. He went over there and he built a model of an Iowa farm complete with John Deere equipment to show these people. And then he invited the leadership of that province to come visit Iowa. Chi's father was the equivalent of the governor, and Chi himself was a county level officer at that time. So daddy sends his son to visit Iowa. And Terry Branstad treated him like he was a hero and showed him all of Iowa. In fact, at one particular part of the state, they didn't have sufficient hotels for him, so he arranged to have them stay with a family farm. He went out of here feeling like he was a king. 20 years later, when Chi was the vice president of China, Terry brought him back to Iowa and duplicated that trip for him. Except he forgot to invite me to come and have dinner with him a second time. But anyway, the point is, he has that kind of relationship with Chi. He gets over there as the ambassador and presents his papers, and Chi asked him to wait for a little bit because he wanted the other ambassadors to leave. And then he invited he and Terry and his wife, and not only that, but his daughter and son-in-law and 2 grandchildren to come to his house for dinner. He's never done that before or since, but they've got that closer relationship. And because they have that closer relationship, Terry got Chi to tell Kim in North Korea that if they initiate war with America, China's not going to their defense. That's huge. Yeah. So huge those of us with more than 20 years in service get a daily briefing from the Pentagon because some poor guy there doesn't have anything else to do. But the point is, they went nuts when they heard that because our whole defense strategy has been based upon, gee, get us in a war with North Korea. Or the other way around, North Korea getting us in a war with China. And so he's made a huge difference in the world.
Yeah.
But when you look at it from the point of view of psychology, which is really how I've been able to help him in his efforts to be governor, you maximize the opportunities that you have that make a real difference. And just think what that does to the quality of Terry's own life, the difference that he's made. So I live what I preach, really.
Right. And it goes back to your initial point. Hopefully there's a heaven. Hopefully there's an afterlife. Hopefully there's an eternity. But also what we do down here on earth counts. And so we have to be a bit existentialist as well to make this world as good as we can possibly leave it, right?
No question about it. And I don't know if there's a life after death or not. I'm not worrying about that. Hope there is.
Me too.
Most people do. I do talk about those subjects because those subjects in themselves can be your barrier.
Exactly.
You stop at that point in time. I don't have to worry about life because there's a life hereafter and I'll enjoy the next one. Now, you know, I'm not enjoying this one.
Right.
That's stupid, but a lot of people think that way. And I'm not challenging anybody's religion.
Exactly. No, I understand it completely. You have to you have to play with the hand you're dealt. Right now, we're given this life. Do the best and the most with it as possible. If you have another life after this, great. And we'll move on to that. But deal with this life first. It's a great book. It's written by Lyle Simpson. It is called Fully Human, Fully Alive. It's a compelling guide that aims to help individuals break free from the limitations of Maslow's social level of living and achieve their highest potential. It's a fascinating read. It's a wonderful book. It's a lifetime in the making. You will love Lyle's book. It'll help you contemplate about life in general and your life specifically. Lyle, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to talk to you.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you on the show. It was a great conversation. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.
Thank you.